Men's basketball team back on the road tomorrow, facing Northwestern in Evanston at 6 p.m. on BTN. Badgers then welcome Michigan State on Sunday at 12:30 p.m. on CBS. Head coach Greg Gard is here. We'll have some opening comments and take questions.
You have an easier schedule, Brian, than that? All right. Obviously, Saturday's game, looking back at that, the last 18 or 20 seconds obviously gets magnified, but like I said, Saturday after the game, there's going to be 50 to 60 things. There was actually 73 things that we looked at yesterday in film and went over. So in terms of the progression that's being made, obviously we're going in the right direction. A lot of things individually and collectively that have been improved upon, but we also know that we've got a long ways to go. And the guys, from the standpoint of how they've bounced back every game and every practice and responded yesterday, I'm happy with that response because they've definitely been both feet in the boat, trying to row in the right direction and getting better as we go forward. So obviously this week, going to Northwestern tomorrow night, Coach Collins has got a team has played pretty well through the preseason and now in the conference play. They've gotten two pretty big wins on the road at Nebraska and Minnesota. Played Ohio State really tough. It was, I think, a 3-point game with 4 minutes to go or a tie game with 4 minutes to go. Then Ohio State was able to knock down a couple shots and pull away there at the end. And obviously Maryland was able to shot the three really well. And in that game last week at Northwestern or 2 weeks ago at Northwestern. So we know it's a team that's developing. Backcourt play is really good with Demps and McIntosh. And then they've got a freshman in Aaron Falzone that's really coming into his own and starting to show what he can do. So without further ado, I'll take the questions.
Jim.
Greg, when you say 73 things, what's normal for video clips? And then I think you said the other day that that's not all bad stuff, right? I mean,
right.
So what do you think the breakdown of good to bad was?
Normal for me has been I've been in the 90s to 100 so reducing is a good thing, and I would say there's probably, of the 73, with just off the top of my head, 50 are things we got to get better at. 23 were things that are pretty good. So we're moving in the right direction. It hasn't always been that ratio, but I think I'm seeing more and more consistency in terms of doing things the right way and how we want to play and an identity that we have started to develop. Now it's a matter of becoming more consistent with that identity, and hopefully we're, like I said, taking steps in the right direction.
Jeff.
Greg, there were so many rules changes in the offseason, including involving timeouts. That last sequence there, I just want to clarify, after the shot went through, are you allowed to call timeout? Is that considered a dead ball? Were you trying to? Because it looked like on one time you were signaling for what?
Until I'm allowed until a player grabs the ball. So, and then once Alex grabbed it, my power to call timeout was negated.
Okay.
So, and that happened. We went over that yesterday too. And obviously they didn't want to watch the last shot again, but we did. But it was more what happened after that and how with 1.2 we have to advance the ball a lot farther than where we threw it to. And if we can't do that, then we need to take a timeout. So obviously with Alex grabbing it right away, I think it hit the floor once and he had it. And I was trying to call timeout, but obviously that didn't happen. And when we did throw it in, we needed to advance it much farther to be able to do the bend brush shot, one dribble, try to advance it to at least half court on the pass where you can catch and catch it facing the rim and take one dribble and get the shot from there.
Jim.
Mark Turgeon said after the game the other day that he thought it was the most physical game they had played in all season. I don't know if he was trying to pay you a compliment, but do you take it as one? I mean, is that when you talk about building an identity, is that one thing you want to see more of and have seen more of?
Well, I think for us to be our best teams and how this program has been built has been primarily first on the defensive end and watching this league over the years, even before we got here, and obviously Bo being here for back in the 70s and the 80s, you have to be a very good defensive team if you want to be in the upper echelon of this league. You're not going to – the scouting is too good. The coaching is too good. It is not going to be a point very often where you're going to be in a position to outscore people. You look at the history of this league, the teams that have sustained it at the top, and what they've done defensively is always a key. So we are getting much better defensively. I think there's still, of those 60 things that were maybe good, bad, or indifferent, or 73, A lot of those are on the defensive end. There's obviously things offensively too that we need to continue to improve upon. But if you want to defensively, you have to be consistent, and that's something that I think you can always hopefully have control over. Some nights you won't shoot the ball real well, and we've had plenty of those. But if you defensively can always become solid and rebound really well, those are the teams over the course of time that have always stood the test of time, and hopefully we're becoming one of the better ones in the league.
Andy?
Greg, continuing with your analogy that everybody's got their feet in the boat and they're paddling in the right direction. What's the water condition? Is it rough? Are the seas rough in your mind at this point in time? Have they calmed at all in the last couple of weeks?
From my standpoint, in terms of the transition, yeah, it's been as easy a transition, and you always hear other coaches going through that, whether it be an assistant to a head coach or taking over a program and starting completely over. The transition is always something people talk to me about, and this really has been, as I think, in two parts why it's been so easy for me and for our staff. Number one, I've got great people around me, and I've said that from day one. Part of those people are our players, and they're the most important piece that has jumped in, and obviously they went through that transition time emotionally. It was hard for everybody for a couple days, and then you move on. And then secondly, I don't allow it to affect any, people that know me pretty well know that my boat doesn't rock one way or the other. I don't get too high when things go really well, and I don't get too low when things aren't going well. So from that standpoint, we just got to continuing to move forward. I shared a story with the team yesterday, and you wonder how they are doing, how they're going to respond to losses. And to make it in a nutshell, about 3-4 weeks ago, the team went to visit a young lady in hospice who passed away this past week. And we talked about adversity and what they have gone through. And, hey, yeah, you've had a few tough losses. They've been right there. But to really define adversity and apply it to what real adversity is. So we talked about that, and they were aware of her, and I got a chance to spend some time with her, and I got a chance to spend some time with their family back in early December. But I also used some other examples. My own personal example with my dad. I talked about Coach Moore and some things that he's gone through with his family. Coach Close, Coach Paris, losing his dad to a heart attack when he was younger. Khalil Iverson lost his father a year ago to a heart attack. There are things that are real. That's real adversity. That's real life things that people have to go through and grow through. And I said, hey, the moment you're feeling sorry for yourself and you want to have a pity party, go over to the University Hospital and sit at the valet for a while, about 30 minutes, because I spent a lot of time there over the last 6 months. You just sit there for a while, and you'll realize, I said, if that doesn't sink in, then go to the American Family Children's Hospital, go up to the cancer ward where all the cancer patients are that are kids where they're fighting for their lives and trying to get to the next birthday, get to the next Christmas, and then come back and tell me how tough you have it, or, wow, we got beat by a really good team, we played really well, and we got beat by an All-American who had hit a 26-footer that was a tough shot. Let's move on. So I think that gave them a little bit of a reality check. If there was ever any sliver of woe is me in the room, and if I smell any of that, I'll stomp it out really quickly. But I think they understood where I was coming from, because I got a lot of nods, and all 17 guys eyes were big and they were focused. So that, from a standpoint, do we take this game seriously? Absolutely. Is this program built on pride and all the things that encompass it? Absolutely. But at the same time, we grow and we learn and we move on and we get better. But there are other things out there that some of us have gone through, some of our guys have gone through. And I said, if you haven't gone through something like that yet, you will. It's a matter of time in your life, you will. That'll help you give better perspective to how we grow and how we learn.
Greg, when you guys played Northwestern last year, I think it was pretty easy to see that Chris had brought in some talent. It was just young, and it was probably magnified going against you guys because you were so old and experienced. Now that another year has passed and those guys have another, almost full season under their belt, do you see the talent starting to come together in the way they play?
Yeah, it is, and it took a little bump in the road with Ola getting hurt. They've had to readjust a little bit and added Van Zegeren back into the middle. It changed a little bit what they've done defensively. They've been mostly man-to-man up until the last 3-4 weeks, so to speak, when Alex went down. But they are. You see the growth in McIntosh. Obviously, Demps has been a scorer for them since he stepped on campus. Lumpkin has been a role player for them. They've gotten some good playoff Taphorn and Lindsay off the bench. But also I think the emergence of Falzone, and he's an older kid that he was at prep school out east. We actually saw him. He's actually even came here for a visit, unofficial visit. But those emergences of those other pieces have helped them. When Falzone stepping up has helped them replace what they lost with Ola for the most part. So they've changed a little bit. They've gone from more of they played through Ola a lot early in the year, and now they've obviously are relying on the three and shoot a fair amount of threes. And when they're on, they're really, really good, and you just try to take them out of their comfort zone with that. So Chris knows what he's doing, and obviously those guys are buying in. You can tell how hard they play and how they like to play together. And it's a team that has grown throughout the couple years that Chris has been there.
Greg, Khalil on Saturday, I think that was the first game that he didn't play. Is he healthy, one? And if so, is there a reason why he was not on the floor?
Well, yeah, he's healthy. No, it's all based on what I see in practice, and it's still about results, and he's still trying to figure some things out defensively, trying to grasp things offensively, and it's not so much maybe what he wasn't doing. I keep watching practice film, what Aaron Maish is doing. I got to try to get him more minutes. And I'm not doing a good enough job of working him into it. So I've got to continue to work on that, and Khalil's got to continue to get better. But it wasn't anything, other than I just felt with the experience and how we were able to match up and what I need to have Khalil continue to improve upon and grow as a freshman, that we went in the route that I did.
Greg, Vito went scoreless in 18 minutes, and his numbers have been dropping the past few games. Is this a slump? Do you think he's still factoring in, and are you demanding more out of him?
Who?
Vito.
Oh, Vito. No, I mean, Vito can continue to impact the game defensively. I think there's things that we continue to find that he needs to improve upon. Alertness away from the ball, reaction time to when there's dribble penetration when he's in a help position. And there's times when he's not in a help position that he gets off a little bit too much towards dribble penetration. So, and the same thing with offensively, making sure that he's playing under control, making sure that he's making good decisions, the type of shots that he takes. There's no different expectations for him than anybody else. So, and I also like, the emergence of Alex Ilikanen, what he's done. And, I joked yesterday with him that he couldn't jump over a Grand Rapids phone book, but I just find him on film. He's a rooter. He's always got his face in there. You rarely find him missing a block out, and he's blocking out guys that are way more athletic than him. But he gets into them, and he's got a bloody nose here or there. But those type of guys that understand that 90% of the game is played with your feet on the floor, and can do those little things well, always sit well with me, and we'll get a chance to prove what they can do.
Anything else for Coach?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.